as we keep going forward, as we get closer and closer to college football season, we got to keep talking about what Miami's got in store for us. This week, big things, the receiver. Big group. He has to have a big year. Shay, what do you think about them this year?
I mean, it's a lot of projection. It's a lot of projection that you're kind of looking for in that receiver group. So it's going to be interesting to see how they develop. I mean, the big guy people have been talking about for a minute is Jojo Trader, but CJ Daniels. Sorry, why am I blanking? Wow, Tony Johnson, another guy. Ray Joseph coming back, and he can kind of step into a slot role. I think a bunch of different guys you can look at. It's really interesting because, like we were talking about the secondary, Miami brought in a bunch of veterans who can come and compete at the highest level, and make hold down roles while younger guys start to develop. And I think that's where you're going to see a lot with this wide receiver room. Like I said, Keelan Marion, Tony Johnson, CJ Daniels, all seniors that are an upperclassmen that Miami brought in throughout this offseason to kind of hold down roles for maybe this year, until guys like if I assume Jojo Trader will step into a full-time role, but if he needs more time to develop, you have a guy like CJ Daniels who I'm going to rave about him this way. Apparently really good leader, really guy who's going to be first guy in, last guy out type of guy, who's working the jugs before you even have to tell him you even have to tell him to. I think having veterans who have been in college football for a minute and have experience, all around, is going to really help these younger guys develop and step into roles. And I think it's going to be exciting to see if those younger guys can take on bigger roles.
Yep. Yes. I mean, look, CJ Daniels will likely be the X guy this season, which sets, it gives Jojo either the Y or even the slot role. And Jojo's probably at the Y. He's the guy I'm most excited for, or at least really hoping that he can prove something for us this season. He's a guy that missed that you wanted to see play a lot more last season, but was kind of in a spot with Sam Brown and Xavier and all those guys. So this season, he kind of, the spot is open for him to, kind of make his mark and be he step up with Carson Beck. And that's a guy that we saw bits and pieces of. We saw it in the Pop-Tart Bowl when he played with Cam in the first half. He was fun. He was very fun to watch. That's a guy that that people remember seeing as in high school and being like, this guy's going to be a real stud. Didn't play a lot freshman year, but now we're expecting sophomore year. Yeah, he's got to step up. He's got to be, kind of a really key player in the Carson Beck regime this season. And I love Jojo. I'm really hoping that he can pull through for us this season.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the biggest of the group of the young guys I think you're going to want to see step up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Jojo there. You saw it in just a half of football. You're like, this guy, if there weren't 6 other receivers, I mean, between the receiver room and tight end room ahead of him, that's a guy you definitely could have seen getting tons of snaps, tons of targets last year if he really wanted to. And you're grateful that he stayed despite not getting those targets. And when you have a guy like Isaiah Horton leave over the offseason, who is going to be the projected number 1 target going to next year, hoping that you can have young guys like Jojo step up is huge. But a guy I want to look at as well is going to be Ray Joseph. If he can step into a full-time slot role, I think that could be huge for Miami. Between him and Tony Johnson, those guys are 2 guys are going to primarily play in the slot for Miami. And if you look at Shannon Dawson's career as a offense coordinator, slot guys have big years under Shannon Dawson. You look at Xavier Restrepo the past 2 years, then you go to the 2 years with him at Houston with Tank Dell. Slot guys have huge years under Shannon Dawson, and between whether it's Ray Joseph, who he's bided his time, he's waited. The coaching staff raved about him having a phenomenal spring, and you really want to see a guy who's worked that hard translate into getting snaps and getting reps this season going into his junior year. And you look at the success slot guys have had under Shannon Dawson, there's definitely a role for him to carve out. Maybe it's not a big 1,000-yard year like the years prior, but he could have a massive impact.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned Tony Johnson, but that's another guy. I mean, the transfer from Cincinnati. That's a guy that you're say Ray Joseph doesn't step up into that role. He doesn't fulfill the role that you're expecting him to. Tony Johnson is a senior, a veteran guy. You're expecting him in a Shannon Dawson system to play good ball. He doesn't have the frame necessarily for, but he has the frame for a slot guy, 5'11", 165, someone that can be quick on a quick slant, someone that can can run up the field pretty fast. Slot guys are big, as you mentioned, in the Shannon Dawson system. So whoever Shannon Dawson trusts the most, that's a guy that you got to be looking out for. That's going to be getting a lot of burn. I know last year they tried giving Sammy Brown some reps at the slot. Didn't work out the way that you had wanted to. That's why Extrepo took a lot of third down slot reps. And, you're hoping that if Tony Johnson can step up next season, that's another piece that can add to the Carson Beck kind of system. And that's honestly, we kind of were talking about it, that receiver is kind of the weird spot for Miami. It's a spot where you're looking at it and you're like, well, what do they have? Is it good enough? It's definitely not as good as it was last season, but can it compete to this season so that it can lead to a good offense with Beck? You already know what the running back group can do. Now, can the receiver group do the same thing? That's a big concern. It's been a big question all season, all off season. And we're looking at this right now with all these guys and, who can step up, who can do this, who can do that. And you're already looking at it. What you expect it to be would be Tony Johnson in the slot, JoJo as the Y, and CJ Daniels as the X. That's three guys right there. And you're hoping, can that be somewhat as effective as last season with X, Sammy Brown, and Xavier Horton?
Yeah, I mean, and the only guy who's proven anything on the biggest level is CJ Daniels. Yep. With that 1,000-yard, 10-touchdown season a couple of years ago. Then he went to LSU, not as much production. You wonder if he can return to that form. A guy who can, he's not necessarily a burner, but he can create separation, stretch the defense. Could be huge on going, on crossers, explosive plays like that. Could be big for CJ Daniels. Another big thing, kind of setting the tone as a leader, is run blocking. I mean, we think Miami is going to be very much a run blocking type of a run centric offense this year. And I think a big thing that CJ Daniels brings, going to that leadership and character traits that that kind of the coaches have praised him about, is blocking. The age old saying, no block, no rock. I think CJ Daniels is going to set the tone in that to show the younger guys, you know what, maybe you're not getting the ball thrown to you every single play, but look, go through this way. And you're going to work out a role for yourself. And I think that could be huge. Once again, leadership. And I think the importance of having these veterans around is kind of to show these young guys how you can carve out roles for yourself as the years go on. And I think, between Daniels, Johnson, we'll talk about Marion a little bit later as kind of a potential gadget guy, kick returner, type of hybrid, but him as well, guys with experience to kind of give this young receiver room knowledge and information that they don't really have because they haven't really had big time reps.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned, which I really like, the little wrinkle there, that CJ Daniels has to be a leader for some of the younger guys in that kind of team. And you're looking at that right now. I mean, there's a lot of young guys in that team that in the future years, with maybe a Luke Nickel at quarterback or a different quarterback, you're very excited for, but you're not sure how much you're going to see of them. You're just hoping that they learn some development as the season goes on. And that's Joshua Moore, the 4-star out of Pembroke Pines, Malachi Tony, the 4-star who reclassified to 2025. That's two guys right there. And even Dalen Upshaw. These are three guys right there that you're looking at and you're saying, what are you going to provide? If you don't provide anything to me, what leadership can CJ Daniels do to maybe help these guys develop and become leaders in the years to come, if you want to stay at Miami and be, kind of the future receivers of, for the team.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, in terms of these guys have plenty of time. I mean, you look at just talk about these young guys. Malachi Tony reclass, he's very young coming into college football, and I think of anybody throughout the spring practices, I think he had the reports saying he was the most impressive of these of this group. So that's a guy right there you can possibly hang your hat on moving into the future of this group. But yeah, just tossing it to you, which of any of these three, which do you see potentially carving out a role for themselves if it was possible?
It would be Malachi Tony. I mean, I know he's young. He's the youngest of the three, but he's also, in my opinion, probably right now at this very level, maybe the best of the three. As you said, he had a great spring game. He was playing great ball when he was in high school. I know. I mean, it was great playing great ball. He actually was playing a little bit quarterback too back over there. But he was a tremendous player. When he declassified, when he decommitted, a little nervous, and he came back to Miami. I think if he were to because of what he was doing in spring, it remains to be seen what we see in the spring practices and the summer practices in the cup, as we get closer to week 1. But if Miami continues to see a role for him, you can definitely expect him to be that wide receiver 5, the wide receiver 6, maybe as maybe you have a game against Bethune-Cookman. Maybe they're blowing them out. Who's gonna be that guy that maybe comes in for a couple reps? Maybe you see him. Maybe you see Nykar. Maybe you see guys like that. I like Nykar a lot. He's another guy I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I mean, another guy you're looking forward to. Did enter the transfer portal for a slight bit during the offseason, came back, and you're excited to see if you can get anything out of him this season too. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting between this wide receiver group. But once again, quick shout out to our consistent donator, Falconer. The helicopters are the answer. You know what? We're on the phones right now. Like we're trying our hardest to get helicopters for students to get to the games. We'll keep you updated week by week as you keep on asking.
We're working through it.
But we appreciate your support, and we'll stay on the phones trying to get those helicopters.
Yes, absolutely. I love you, Falconer.
Appreciate it as always. And now kind of moving on to the other half of this, where weapons room for Carson Beck is going to be this tight end group. I'm very excited to see what they do with Elijah Loftton. More than probably more than anybody of this weapons group, just because like you think about his versatility as a like mobile chess piece that you can kind of move around wherever. I know he might not necessarily put up the biggest numbers of any of this between the receivers and tight ends, but like you think about what you could potentially do with a guy like that. You can line him up in the backfield. You can play him in the slot a little bit. Like you can move him a bunch of different places and just to get him the football. You think about what Penn State did with Tyler Warren last year. Like you think if you can potentially carve out a role for a Loftton like that, he could be potentially special for Miami this year.
Yeah, the dude's an athlete, an absolute athlete. I really wanted to see more of him last season, but he was shadowed by Arroyo. He's an incredible athlete. You mentioned that he could play pretty much any position, and that's a guy that with the way that Miami was using tight ends last season. I know it was Ward that was throwing it. With the way that we have the tight end group with a not the best receiver group, maybe a curious receiver group. This is an elite and maybe not an elite level tight end group. But this is a tight end group that Carson Beck's probably going to rely on quite a bit. And I love what Elijah Loftton can bring. I think he's super fast. I think he can block. He can make incredible catches. He's fast. He can do a lot of different things, and that's an incredible athlete. Another guy that's coming in, Alex Bowman from Tulane. Incredible player. Now, that's the guy that I imagine will maybe take the role of Elijah Arroyo as maybe the receiving guy, maybe the red zone guy. He is in Tulane. He had 63 catches, 610 yards, and 13 touchdowns over 3 seasons. He's strong after the catch, 5.4 yards after contact. Big dude at 6'5". He's going to be a guy that, he probably won't be a big blocker for the team, but you might see maybe a 2 tight end formation, and will be Bowman and Loftton, and you might see them together in some formations, in some positions or formations where you're going to need some tight ends. Bowman's going to be there to be that red zone threat, that big body for Beck, and then maybe if you go with the 2 tight ends, you could have Loftton block. You have a lot of different options with the tight end group, and you're right, the tight end group is so key for Carson Beck this season.
Yeah, I mean, not to say any of these players, anybody on Miami will be this, but you saw Brock Bowers be huge for Carson Beck when he was at his best over at Georgia. And so, guys, if you can recreate him in the aggregate between Miami's tight ends, it could be huge for Beck being his best. And as Falconer, once again, thank you for the donation again. Miami does need to get back to his tight end play of the past. Formerly tight end U. I mean, we brought it back a little bit last year with the success of Elijah Arroyo. And so, like, what you want to see is Loftton potentially be that next guy. And then maybe Brock Schott be the next guy afterwards. As guys continue to develop, come into Miami for great tight end play because they think they can develop to the highest level here. And kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about no block, no rock. For something to look at for Elijah Loftton is how he improves his work as a blocker. Miami's tight end coach, we called one of the most unique players he's played with, and he also praised the fact that Lofton's improved a bunch as a blocker. And if you can use Loftton more also in line as well as lining him up wherever, it just adds to his versatility and ability to play wherever you want him to. And so what the one thing Miami doesn't have necessarily, or doesn't have that's proven, is that blocking tight end, which I think potentially you get out of Jack Nickel, who can play a little bit. The brother of Luke Nickel. I think we'll see him a decent bit this year for Miami because he can play in line, he can block at a high level, fill in some of those Cam McCormick snaps. Is that Miami's main blocking tight end, but the guy you want to see looking to develop off of guys like that, kind of Luka Gilbert, 6'7", 6'8" I believe, could carve out a big role for Miami if in the future. So you want to see a guy like that learn and develop underneath this tight end room, and maybe eventually becomes a receiver as well. Works on those receiving skills, but I mean, he could even carve out a little bit of a role this year. You see a guy at 6'7", 6'8", big freshman. Potentially a developmental option, but you look at a guy like that and you're like, he's a waste sitting on the bench if he can come in and block for us here. So
yeah, this is a historic position for Miami. Over the course of Miami hit football history, the Jimmy Grahams of the world, the Greg Olsons of the world, Kellen Winslow. That's three guys in even recent memory within Njoku and now Loftton, Arroyo. That's a position, that's a spot where Miami wants to get back to. And with the way that you have this year of Bowman and you have Loftton, who they're so hot there, they love Loftton. The hope is that these guys are going to continue to bring Miami to its form as an elite tight end group and bring back that tight end U kind of recognition. And you're hoping that this season, the way that when Beck was at Georgia, he loved throwing the ball to the tight ends with Brock Bowers. You're expecting him to love the tight end group. The system is built a lot around offense about some of the big guys, and we saw that last season. And I would expect to see that again this season, especially with Beck in the quarter at the helm.
Yeah, 100%. You think you pack it in a little bit more. You're going to run the ball a lot more, and you think as a result of that, tight ends are going to be a lot more involved in this offense, maybe even more than last year. Whereas Arroyo was more of a big slot type of guy, where you might go to traditional tight ends a lot more, lining up in the line. But also, like we said, Loftton, can you move him around? Can you play fullback and come out into the flat, stuff like that? I think if Miami's tight end position kind of grows and as the level it's expected to be, essentially, it'd be huge for the production of Carson Beck and this offense.
Yeah, 1,000%. The tight end group's it's a big group to watch, and I actually am more excited for it than the receiver group because I think I know what I'm getting out of it, and I think it's going to be really impressive compared to the receiver group, which is a little more unknown. You don't really know what you're going to be getting out of some of the younger guys, or even some of the transfers. So at least the tight end group, what I saw with Loftton last season, what I saw from Alex Bowman at Tulane, I am much more excited for it because I know what Carson Beck might be able to do with it, with as well having the running backs and the whole system as well. You're expecting that to be in play for the course of the season.
Yep. And so just to toss this to you for really quick, you have your five skill positions on the field. Who are they? Third and 5, you need a first down. Okay. You're going to have to pass the ball. Who do you want on the field?
I mean, I want CJ Daniels. I want an elite level X guy there. I want Bowman. I definitely want Bowman, that big body. I want Loftton as well. I want both of them. And then I would say give me a third down back of Jordan Lyle. And then give me Jojo on the Y. And I'll take those are my best 5 on a 3rd and 5. 3rd and 5, looking for a pass. That's what I'm looking for. We want a little dump off pass, maybe get a first down, Jordan Lyle. You want to get someone at the first down marker on maybe a curl or a comeback route, Alex Bowman. You want a guy that can a big body frame that you can go on a one-on-one with. That's CJ Daniel. You want an explosive receiver, that's Jojo Trader, and you're the versatile guy who could also block, and Elijah Loftton. That's a good group of guys that you can kind of work around.
Yeah, I mean, very fair, very fair. Yeah, I would probably sub out Bowman for one of Miami's slot guys, whether it be Tony Johnson or Ray Joseph. But I totally get it. You want to get 2 big bots. It's 5 yards. Maybe a guy breaks tackle. Maybe have a big guy box out on the little curl route. Totally get it. I think it's fair.
I'm big on the two tight end formation right now for Miami. I think could be the play with the way that they're going to run the ball. having that kind of formation be in play where you can run the ball out there, you can do play action out there, you can utilize Bowman and Loftton. I think you can really do something in a lot of two tight end formations. We saw a little bit of that last season. I kind of want to see more of it this season.